Causes have two dimensions. One is a dimension of medical causes, which is what people call as direct obstetric causes and indirect obstetric causes. Direct obstetric meaning those conditions which only arise in pregnancy and childbirth and kill mothers. For example, bleeding after delivery or bleeding during delivery, which is the most common cause. Then high blood pressure during pregnancy and delivery. Then infection following delivery. Then obstructed labor, that means labor doesn't progress, the child doesn't come out through the vagina, so it has to be taken out by cesarean. So these types of things. And finally, complications of abortion. So these are the 5 major causes of direct obstetric death or direct causes, and then there are other which are called indirect, which are the diseases which even occur in non-pregnant women but are exacerbated in pregnant women. For example, malaria or jaundice or anemia. Now all of that could become more complicated during pregnancy and kill women during pregnancy or childbirth, or heart disease. So all of that become indirect causes, and generally about 70% are direct causes and 30% of deaths are because of indirect causes. So these are the biomedical causes. The other reason for high maternal mortality in India, one could say, is the social reason. For example, people are poor, there is no free care available to many people or no care available. So as a society, we have not organized care where it is accessible to everybody, and that is why women who need care are not getting it and they die. So these are a societal sort of reason of neglect of women and health care in general, and that is where people die. So that is the societal reason. So these are the, I think, 2 broad categories of reasons.
I was reading on Wikipedia that in 1800 the maternal mortality globally had increased considerably. Why was that?
I also don't know, but maternal mortality does go up and go down. My sense is it might have increased. There was some increase in Sweden and some reasons because the infecting organism, some of the organisms, this is all theory, could have become more virulent. Like there is an organism called Staphylococcus. Its virulence in the society goes up and down periodically. That could be one of the reasons why it increased.
Supposing I want statistics.
That is my sense is.
The statistics on this will be available on Ministry of Health site or some other place?
The other problem is we don't keep much statistics. So Indian government doesn't monitor maternal mortality closely, and that is why it is quite high. Because we don't record generally all the deaths. Maternal mortality is not even specifically recorded. So we are very poor at keeping records of death, and that is why the problem is not that much understood or highlighted.
Maternal mortality all over the world, if I want statistics, where will I get?
WHO site will have estimate, or UNICEF site will have estimate, but these are all estimates.
Are there any laws with regard to maternal mortality? Any laws government has passed?
Law?
Law. I mean, just as there is a food security bill, there is right to education bill. Is there any law in this regard?
I don't think there is law, but government has signed many treaties. Say CEDAW, which is discrimination against women, international treaty. Then there are human rights laws. In some sense, the right to life could be interpreted as right to health, and that is what Supreme Court has done. Indian Constitution doesn't provide right to health, but it provides the right to life. And Supreme Court has interpreted that as extending to right to health. So that way, one could say that there is some legal basis for providing health care to all, including maternal health. Second is, it can be also interpreted that right to protect the most vulnerable is the state's responsibility. And women in pregnancy are very vulnerable to maternal death. And it is a gender-specific issue. Only women die of maternal death. So that way also they have to be protected. And almost 99% of deaths could be prevented if we have proper system of care. So it is a highly preventable cause of death. And that is where I think we also need to take steps in that direction. But there is no specific law on maternal death or maternal mortality.
What are the challenges in combating maternal mortality and reducing maternal mortality?
My sense is there are two types of challenges. One challenge and major reason and issue is the lack of political commitment. So we have political commitment to all type of things, including Commonwealth Games, which cost so much of expense and fraud and all. We are committed. But when it comes to repair and renovation of a maternity home or giving proper medicines, we say there is no money. So my sense is it's a major social and political neglect of health, and within that women's health or maternal health. So that is one challenge. How do we reverse this political neglect, which reflects into budgetary neglect and which reflects into human resources, etc. Second whole issue is that because of this neglect of health, we haven't created a credible and working and adequate government infrastructure or infrastructure accessible to everybody, whether it is government or it is private, but accessible to everybody without any cost or with reasonable cost. So that is also social and political challenge. The third is wherever infrastructure is created in rural areas, remote areas, we are not able to staff it. So human resources, doctors, nurses, paramedical workers are not willing to go there. If they are willing, they are not happy there, they don't stay there. They go there, they stay there, they don't provide the service, so we don't have accountability, etc. So there are these levels of barriers. Some specific barriers have been created because of this unnecessary scare because of HIV/AIDS. They created laws to make blood very safe, which meant that blood is not accessible. So blood is safe but not accessible. So women die without having blood because bleeding after death, after birth, is the major cause. And given the HIV scare, we have had so much of strict regulation of the blood banks, including unnecessary regulation, that blood banks have become very expensive to set up. And blood has become expensive. So blood is not accessible, and that is why some women die. So that is another policy-created barrier.